Athlete of the Year, probably because she was hurt and probably because she was last year's Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. Well, I'm here to tell you they decided to go with another WNBA star. That was A'ja Wilson. Now, A'ja Wilson, to me, shouldn't have got it, bro. She got help from the WNBA referees throughout the whole entire season. Everybody act like they forget that. I mean, they hella cheated against the Fever, pretty much causing
Caitlin Clark did not enter the WNBA like a normal rookie. She entered the league with a spotlight so bright that even veteran players could not ignore it. The media talked about her, fans followed her everywhere, and every game she played felt like a big event. For many people, it felt like the entire league was depending on her. But these expectations also created pressure, misunderstandings, and emotional reactions from all sides. Many players in the league believed that Caitlin was favored by the media. They felt that her story was being pushed too heavily, while their own hard work was being ignored. But in reality, Caitlin Clark did not ask for this attention. She simply played basketball the way she always had, with confidence, speed, and a shooting style that fans loved. The attention came naturally because people found her exciting to watch. The situation became more complicated because the WNBA had been trying for years to grow its viewership. Suddenly, here comes a young rookie who starts filling arenas, breaking ratings records, and bringing a whole new wave of fans, especially young girls, families, and college basketball fans. Instead of celebrating together, the league became divided into two sides. Side 1. People who loved Caitlin Clark and felt she made the league more exciting. Side 2. People who believed she was being promoted too much and too fast. This division created unnecessary drama. One of the biggest problems was communication. Veterans like A'ja Wilson often felt they were not respected enough, or that their achievements were not recognized. Meanwhile, Caitlin felt the pressure to perform every night, even though she was still learning the game. Even during interviews, she spoke politely and respectfully. She never attacked anyone. She always praised her teammates and opponents. But still, people judged her for things she had no control over, like media coverage and fan hype. Things got worse when the media compared her to legends and said she might be the future of the league. Many veterans felt offended. They believed they had already built the league long before she got there. And they were right. They did work hard for years. But they were also wrong to assume Caitlin was trying to take credit. Caitlin repeatedly said she admired the players before her and respected the league. But because social media often twists stories, her comments were taken out of context or made to look harsher than they were. The incident with Chindi Carter was a major turning point. Carter's hip check on Caitlin made national news. People outside of sports started talking about the WNBA, but not in a good way. Instead of focusing on the game, everyone talked about the drama. Veteran players said Caitlin needed to toughen up. Fans said she was being targeted. The league said the foul was upgraded after review. And this moment shaped the rest of the season. Every little move, good or bad, became a headline. At the same time, Caitlin felt the weight of expectations getting heavier. She was trying to balance, learning how to survive in a physical league, dealing with constant media pressure, avoiding drama, helping the Indiana Fever win games, and staying mentally strong. Meanwhile, her relationship with her agent and sponsorship deals also added stress. People questioned her choices, her brand, and her image. Even her interviews were overanalyzed. A single sentence could turn into a viral argument online. But despite all this pressure, Caitlin kept showing up. She kept playing. She kept improving. And every time she stepped onto the court, the crowd cheered like they were watching a superstar. Caitlin reminded everyone that she was just a rookie, but fans didn't care. They wanted greatness. The league wanted ratings. The media wanted big headlines. And her team wanted wins. This is where everything began. A young player in the center of a storm she never asked for. As Caitlin Clark continued her rookie season, the pressure around her only grew stronger. Every game she played felt bigger than the last. Arena after arena began to sell out. Fans lined up hours before games just to see her warm up. And all of this created a level of attention the WNBA had never experienced before. But with that attention came criticism. Veteran players started speaking in interviews about how the media was focusing too much on one player. Some said it was unfair. Some felt disrespected. Others believed the league was ignoring their years of hard work. For Caitlin, this was confusing. She never claimed to be the face of the league. She never demanded special treatment. She never asked to be the center of attention. All she did was play the game she loved. But the world around her turned it into something much bigger. Many fans believed the veterans were jealous. Many veterans believed the fans were biased. And Caitlin was right in the middle, trying to keep her head down. Reporters asked her questions about drama. Fans posted online arguments every day. Every small moment became a debate. Even when Caitlin complimented other players, people twisted her words. One simple sentence could become a viral clip. And any mistake she made was repeated over and over again. When you are young and still learning the professional game, this kind of attention can feel extremely heavy. At the same time, Caitlin was facing the physical challenge of the WNBA. The league was faster, stronger, and more aggressive than college basketball. She was facing players who were bigger, quicker, and more experienced. Every possession felt like a battle. But she stayed calm. She stayed focused. She refused to let frustration show. The game against Chicago Sky changed everything. The foul by Chindi Carter became one of the biggest sports stories of the year. People argued for weeks. It was a dirty foul. It was just physical basketball. They're targeting her. She needs to be tougher. Even people who never watched the WNBA before suddenly cared. Every news channel talked about it. Every podcast discussed it. And social media exploded. But Caitlin handled the situation with maturity. She didn't complain. She didn't attack Carter. She didn't cry for attention. She simply said she wanted to move forward and focus on basketball. Her quiet strength impressed many people who originally doubted her. Still, behind the scenes, the pressure kept building. Her relationship with her agent became more complicated. Fans began questioning whether she needed better guidance. And Caitlin herself started thinking deeply about her long-term future. The more she grew as a player, the more she realized she needed an agent who truly understood her identity, her goals, and her vision. She needed someone who could protect her brand, not just profit from it. Someone who respected her values and her personality. At the same time, the Indiana Fever struggled with team chemistry. They were a young team still learning to play together. Expectations were high, but experience was low. This added even more pressure on Caitlin, who became the focus of every broadcast. Every time the Fever lost, people blamed her. Every time they won, people said it was only because of her. It became a cycle she couldn't escape. She wanted to be part of a team, but people treated her like she was the entire team. Even her celebrations, her reactions, and her body language were judged. If she smiled too much, people said she was cocky. If she stayed serious, they said she was upset. If she talked confidently, they said she was disrespectful. If she stayed quiet, they said she lacked personality. No matter what she did, someone always had something negative to say. But despite all the noise, Caitlin continued improving. She became smarter with her passes. She adjusted her shooting. She learned how to handle physical defenders. She became stronger mentally. And every time she overcame a challenge, her fan base grew even bigger. And this is where the real shift began. Caitlin started realizing that she could not continue like this without making major decisions about her career, her team, and her representation. The pressure was no longer just about basketball. It was about business, media, reputation, and long-term stability. She needed to take control of her future, even if that meant making difficult changes. As the season went on, Caitlin Clark started to feel something she had never felt before. The weight of the entire sports world on her shoulders. Every day brought a new headline. Every mistake became a debate. Every win became a measurement of her value. And in the middle of all this, the people who were supposed to protect her were not doing their job properly. Her agency, which was supposed to guide her, made decisions that caused more pressure and confusion. Most fans didn't know what was happening behind the scenes, but small signs began to appear. Important interviews were mishandled. Public statements were inconsistent. Brand deals were not being managed in a way that matched Caitlin's personality or goals. And slowly, Caitlin realized something. She was losing control of her own career story. The media talked about her like she was a product, not a person. They expected her to be perfect on and off the court. They wanted her to carry the league. They wanted her to handle drama like a veteran. But she was still a rookie, still learning how to live as a professional athlete, and still trying to find her voice. Every time a reporter asked her a question about drama, she tried to stay calm. Every time the TV analysts compared her to legends, she stayed humble. Every time a veteran criticized her indirectly, she stayed quiet. But silence can only last so long. Inside, Caitlin knew something was wrong. She needed people around her who understood her values. She needed a team that respected her identity. She needed representation that protected her future. Instead, she felt like she was being pushed into a box she did not choose. The biggest problem was how her image was being controlled. Caitlin is naturally calm, respectful, and focused. But her agency sometimes made choices that didn't match who she really was. Partnerships that didn't make sense. Statements that didn't sound like her. Decisions that created more trouble than support. Fans started noticing the disconnect too. They began saying, "She doesn't look comfortable. Her interviews feel forced. She needs someone who understands her." And they were right. At the same time, the league continued to pull her in every direction. She had media days, photo shoots, events, interviews, and promotional commitments. Even on days when she was exhausted, she had to smile because her image was now part of the business. Caitlin is strong, but she is human. The nonstop pressure was mentally draining. Sometimes she wanted a quiet day, but the world didn't give her one. Sometimes she wanted to focus only on basketball, but distractions kept pulling her away. Behind the scenes, the Indiana Fever also felt the pressure. They were a young team struggling to find stability. Every game felt like a test. And because Caitlin was the face, she received the highest level of criticism whenever the team lost. It didn't matter if she played well or not. People blamed her either way. Coaches tried to protect her, but they couldn't stop the noise. Veterans around the league had mixed opinions. And fans argued online about her every move. Caitlin became the center of a conversation that was bigger than her. A conversation about identity, respect, business, and power within the WNBA. But the breaking point came when an internal decision, made by her own representation, caused a major misunderstanding in the public. It was a small mistake, but it spread quickly online. Fans blamed Caitlin, even though she had nothing to do with it. She had trusted others to manage her career, and they failed her. That was the moment Caitlin realized she needed to take back control. She could not continue letting other people shape her story. She could not continue relying on a team that did not protect her. She could not continue carrying the entire league without proper support. She needed a change. A big change. A difficult change. And this decision would completely alter the direction of her career and shock the sports world. The moment finally came when Caitlin Clark knew she could not continue with the same agent or the same management team. She had spent months trying to stay loyal, trying to stay patient, and trying to trust the people around her. But the mistakes kept happening. The pressure kept growing. And the public misunderstandings kept piling up. She realized that if she didn't take action now, her entire career, not just her rookie season, could be shaped by people who did not fully understand her. Caitlin is not someone who makes emotional decisions. She thinks carefully. She observes quietly. She listens more than she talks. But she also knows when it is time to protect herself. And this was that moment. Her agent had failed to represent her properly. Brand deals were becoming messy. Public messaging was inconsistent. Her voice was being drowned out. And her image was being shaped by others. So Caitlin made the biggest professional decision of her life. She fired her agent. This news shocked the entire sports world. Reporters were stunned. Fans were confused. Other athletes were impressed by her confidence. People could not believe that a rookie, especially one under so much pressure, had the strength to make such a big move. But Caitlin knew that if she didn't act now, the situation would only get worse later. She understood her value. She understood her market power. And she understood that she needed a team who could handle her growing influence responsibly. The decision was not easy. She knew people would judge her. She knew critics would twist the story. She knew some media outlets would call her difficult or too demanding. But she also knew that her peace, her career, and her identity were more important than public opinion. After the news broke, fans immediately started debating online. Some said she did the right thing. Others claimed she was being dramatic. Some people said the league was too much for her. Others believed she was finally taking control. But the truth was simple. Caitlyn needed a team that matched her vision. She wanted representation that protected her image, not damaged it. She wanted people who understood her values, not just her popularity. She wanted long-term stability, not quick decisions for short-term profit. As soon as she made the switch, she felt a sense of relief, almost like she could breathe again. She had taken a bold step toward protecting her future. Behind the scenes, several top agencies reached out to her. They understood her influence. They knew she could change the landscape of women's sports. They wanted to be part of her journey. But Caitlyn was careful. She didn't want just any big agency. She wanted the right one. She asked questions. She looked at contracts closely. She talked to athletes who had worked with these agencies. She took time to think before making a final decision. This moment showed how mature she truly was. Even under extreme pressure, Caitlyn refused to rush. She refused to let excitement or fear control her. People started to notice this side of her. Her leadership, her intelligence, her strength. And slowly, the conversation around Caitlyn began to change. Instead of seeing her as just a rookie, people began to see her as a powerful young woman shaping her own path. At the same time, the WNBA watched closely. They understood that Caitlyn was more than just a player. She was now a central figure in the league's growth. Her decisions affected not only her future, but the league's future as well. Her teammates supported her move too. They saw how much pressure she had been under. They saw how unfairly she was treated at times. They saw how hard she worked every day, despite all the noise. And they were proud of her for taking action. By taking control of her representation, Caitlyn also took control of her narrative. She was no longer a passive figure in the storm. She was now the one steering the direction. She had survived the drama. She had survived the pressure. She had survived the misunderstandings. And now she was stepping into a new chapter, one where she would finally get the support, respect, and protection she deserved. The world didn't know it yet, but this decision would shape the next phase of her career and change everything for the Indiana Fever, the WNBA, and the fans watching her journey. After the agent switch, everything around Caitlyn Clark started to move in a new direction. The noise didn't disappear, but something important changed. She finally had control. For months, she had been reacting to problems created by other people. Now, she was making the moves. She wasn't waiting for things to fall apart. She was choosing her future herself. This shift in energy was noticeable to everyone around her. Fans, teammates, brands, WNBA officials, and especially the media. They all felt it. Caitlyn was not the confused rookie they thought she was. She was beginning to look like a professional who understood her value and knew how to protect it. And with her new management team taking shape, the foundation for her future became stronger than ever. A new brand strategy starts forming. Her new representation began building a strategy around who Caitlyn really is, not who the media wanted her to be. They focused on her personality, her authenticity, her love for the game, and the connection she had with millions of fans. They wanted the world to see the real Caitlyn, the hardworking, honest, humble competitor who played with passion and joy long before she reached the WNBA. Her new team focused on three main goals: protecting her image, strengthening her business partnerships, preparing for long-term success beyond basketball. This was the opposite of what had been happening before. She finally had people who understood her and wanted to build with her, not use her popularity for quick deals. More opportunities, but on her terms. Suddenly, bigger companies started to approach her again. Some wanted commercials. Some wanted long-term partnerships. Some wanted to build entire campaigns around her. But now Caitlyn didn't say yes immediately. Her new team rejected offers that didn't match her values. They slowed down the pace. They allowed her to breathe. They made sure she understood every detail before signing anything. She was no longer the player who agreed to things because she felt pressured. She was now the woman who chose what worked best for her future. The media begins to change its tone. Even reporters who had been harsh started to adjust their tone. They could see the shift in her confidence. They could see she had structure around her now. And they realized something important. Caitlin Clark was not going away. She was only getting stronger. The media also understood that she was becoming too powerful to ignore or mistreat. When she spoke, millions listened. When she played, fans filled arenas. When she made decisions, the entire sports world reacted. And now that she had real support behind her, the way people talked about her began to slowly change. Her body transformation becomes part of the story. People also started talking about her physical transformation. The weight change, the muscle reduction, the return to her Iowa-like playing style. Fans noticed that she finally looked comfortable again. Her game started to look freer. Her shot release looked smoother. Her deep threes looked like they belonged. Her new team made sure this wasn't seen as weakness, but as smart training. A professional choosing the best version of her body for her game. It became clear that Caitlin Clark was preparing for a second-year comeback, and this time, she was going to do it on her terms. The WNBA prepares for a new era. The league could not deny it anymore. Caitlin Clark was their most valuable asset. She was filling arenas, boosting ratings, and attracting new fans who had never watched the WNBA before. They knew they had to treat her with more care moving forward. Behind closed doors, league executives discuss ways to protect rising stars like Caitlin. Her injuries, the media pressure, and the confusion around her agent made them realize that the league needed stronger systems for young players. Caitlin's journey opened their eyes. She forced the league to rethink how they supported their biggest stars. Her legacy begins earlier than expected. Caitlin never wanted to be the center of drama, but she also couldn't avoid her influence. The decisions she made were already shaping future generations of players. Young athletes were watching her closely. They saw the courage she showed. They saw how she stood up for herself. They saw how she turned a chaotic situation into a step toward a brighter future. She was becoming a blueprint, not just a scorer, not just a star, but a leader who showed the world how women athletes should be treated. Looking ahead, a stronger, smarter, more confident Caitlin. Everything she went through, the pressure, the criticism, the inconsistent support, the agent problems, taught her lessons she never expected to learn so early in her career. But instead of breaking her, those lessons made her stronger. Her mind became sharper. Her focus became clearer. Her goals became bigger. And with a new agent, a new team, and a new vision, Caitlin Clark was ready for the next chapter. A chapter defined by growth, control, and self-respect. She wasn't just fixing her career. She was building her future. She was getting ready for the superstar she was meant to become.